How's it going, my G's? It's Artifact. Hope you're doing well. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're not new to the channel, please don't leave because I need you. Anyway, I've got a new sample pack out. Make sure you check that out down below. There's a little demonstration video as well, but there's some really good sounds in there, so check that out. Anyway, today I'm going to make a mid bass that is going to be, or actually a snare or a mid bass. I did an Instagram story poll. I recorded some water textures down at this lake that I've just been to. Currently sitting on a contemplative log waiting to get the tram home so I can finish making the video and resample the sound of a water texture. And we're going to look when I get home at the results whether I'm going to make it into a mid bass or a snare. But either way, it's going to be, yeah, very sort of textural, liquidy, I don't know, something. Anyway, yeah, thought I'd do a bit of a different video today as it's Sunday and I was a bit bored and it's really hot in Berlin. So yeah, we're going to jump straight into the video, but before we do that, yeah, like I said, check out Sample Pack, check out my Discord community as well, lovely, lovely people in there. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and let's get into resampling this water texture. Alrighty then, my G's, back home, back in the sort of heat of my apartment, and yeah, finished designing what I consider to be an acceptable waterfront bass. So using the water texture that I recorded out and about today out of the lake in Berlin, and yeah, resampling it in Vital. And I started off just by pulling out a small section of audio, and if I can probably quickly play it in Vital on its own here. I've just sort of thrown it into the sampler here, and let's just turn everything off and then we'll build the bass up together, shall we? Yeah, so if I just mute this modulation as well. So that's my water sample when it's, you know when you have that kind of echoey sound in like a little, I don't want to say pit or a little duct, I don't know, where the you can kind of hear the water up against the wall in like a little tunnel, that kind of sound. Anyway, I had my microphone out with me, and I saw that, and well, I sort of heard that, and I was like, yeah, that'll be a perfect thing to resample because that's always a nice texture. But anyway, we're going to make it into a mid bass, as that was the final vote on my Instagram poll of whether I should turn it into a snare or mid bass. And so how I decided I'd go about it was to also drag the sample into the wavetable section and make like a synthetic version of the sound. It actually sounds pretty realistic how they've done it here. So the thing you have to note is when you drag the sample in and select wavetable, it's often at the wrong pitch, so you have to pitch it down a lot of the time. So I pitched it down 24 semitones, and it's playing through the whole sample here. So for those of you who don't know what it does, it basically recreates an audio or a spectral version of the audio file. So it kind of like tries to analyze the frequencies and make its own synthetic wavetable of the sound. So to play it through like you're playing the normal sample through, you have to modulate this slider so it goes through the motions. So yeah, I've got that LFO1 just going up, so it kind of goes up and plays out the sound. And yeah, so what I did next was I modulated in to this, the original sample. So he gets quite sort of noisy here, but that's going to be, we're going to route that through some sine waves in a minute. And by the way, this is a free preset for you guys as well today, so I know it's quite a complicated one, and yeah, I spent a little bit of time getting all the settings right, so I wouldn't expect anyone to be able to recreate it really. Well, you won't have the original sample anyway, so you wouldn't be able to, but yeah, that's why I'm leaving it down below for free. And yeah, so we've got this really like textural noisy part to the sound, and we've also got a bit of the original natural recording left in as well on the level here. And yeah, next up we're going to add in a sine wave. And what's the beautiful thing about this one is that it's FMing from the noisy texture, and then also I've used the shepherd tone to control the harmonics of the sine wave to give it some extra ones here. And then I'm just modulating both of these modes. So the shepherd tone and the FM oscillator are both going on to some LFOs here. And yeah, I've got these ramp down sort of curved LFOs. And the reason that I've had to use 3 is because Vital was being a bit crazy and I had to redesign the patch 3 times in order for it to stop glitching out and moving all the modulation to the left like it does to me for some reason because it hates me. But anyway, so I got around it by just doing lots of new LFOs and adding the 1/8 dotted on each of them. So it's all at the same speed still. You know, everything's modulating at the same speed. So I've got this nice sort of funky pattern that goes, you know, a little bit offbeat with my drums. And when you've got your own version of this patch, all you would have to do is just change the speeds of the LFOs here. You might have to do it 3 times, you know, or you can just redesign the parameters so they all go on one LFO. But yeah, sorry for that, for the hassle. But yeah, just readjust them here, and you can try doing different combinations of LFOs speeds. That also sounds quite nice. Anyway, the next thing I bloody well went and did was added an oscillator 3 here. And this one is quite nasty because it's lower sine wave. And I've done the same thing again. So I've used the shepherd tone to modulate the sort of tone of the sound. You know, put that on the LFO. And then also, this is FMing from oscillator 2. So we're also sort of getting a blend between these two here as well for extra detail. You can control the overall tone of the shepherd tone. So both of them are going to be... you know, you could get some slightly different versions if you wanted to there. But the next thing, and most important thing, is adding in the comb filter. So this is where we start to give the sound all a haircut, a nice trim together. And this is, yeah, this is really kind of... The magic part is modulating the cut here. So yeah, it's giving this like growly mid-range movement, you know, through this modulating the cut, and also the I've put a little macro on the top part so you can sort of control the. Again, it's sort of shaping the tone of it a little bit here. It gets a bit sort of crazy and. Well, it's already quite crazy, but it gets a bit, you know, you get to start to hear that comb filtered effect a little bit too much, you know, if you turn it up too high. So I prefer to leave it down, to be honest. I just kind of was playing with that idea. But yeah, there, it's like, what we've got is you've got really, really like punchy mid-bass movement with also this high end on top of it and that kind of crunchy texture as well. So it's kind of like a 3-dimensional sound already. And what I've done on the LFOs, I've put a little bit of stereo on some of them as well. So one of them is going to the right here, and then I think this other one goes to the left a little bit. So we add a bit of stereo information to the bass already. And just remember, if you do that, make sure to take out the sides below, because otherwise it's going to be, you know, all this side information is not really very useful. Clogs up your mix a lot, so take that out. And my other EQ I've got on here is just boosting the mid-range a bit, because I felt like it was just lacking at the end of the sound a little bit. But you can EQ and process the sound yourself anyway, but I thought a little mid-range boost would be nice around there. Anyway, next thing, this little water sample that sort of runs the whole time, I wanted to filter out the low end of that a little bit more, so I've just done it here. So it's not interfering too much with that kind of bouncy mid-bass. And I did already actually process the audio sample a little bit before I put it into Vital. I just took out the low-end rumble from the microphone and brought up the high end on the EQ, and that was really, really it. And then that's just gone straight in, and that's sort of been good enough for me. Yeah, so let's go on to the effects then. A tiny bit of like room reverb at the beginning, just to put it into a space. Then I've chorused it a little bit, just on 4 voices, and all I've changed is turning the depth down and turning the mix down a bit. And then I've distorted it all, and this is modulating as well on the LFO, so we're distorting at the same rhythm. So that's where it starts to get really juicy as well. And the sinefold mode one was I think is my favourite type of distortion, but it doesn't always work on every sound. But when it does work well on a particular like mid bass, it really gets it to pop through quite loudly. So that's my favourite one when it works. Then compressor. Attack up, release all the way up pretty much, and then just tame to the high end a little bit. So, sort of saturating it a little bit in a way. It's sort of squeezing out some extra volume from everything. And then, yeah, a bit of a mid-range kind of boost, and I've put this actually onto an LFO. It's a little bit sort of a high, mid-range, low treble area, like sort of 600-700. Just because you can see there's a bit of a gap in the spectrum there, but mostly I was using my ears to sort of see where I could boost that sounded nice. And then a little filter just at the end, and that's got a little bit of shaping here to boost the low mids a little bit, and then I'm just mixing that on one of the LFOs as well. Just to give a bit more mid-range movement here. Just sort of randomise the position slightly as well to give it a bit of, you know, a little bit of variation every time the note repeats. So this one now is like a little bit upgraded, so I'm gonna save this one as version 2 and put this one up on Dropbox for you guys. But yeah, you've got a really, really powerful mid bass, and you've got a really, really like crunchy high end. So it's already sounding really full. So with a little bit of processing or tweaking, you could definitely use this, and it's quite chunky, in my opinion. Let's play it with the track. Yeah, so I think it didn't really glide the way I wanted it to, but I guess maybe it's better to just use it at that one note. It's kind of designed around the E note, but obviously you could bounce it out and resample the pitch, of course, or just perhaps if we turned on some key tracking, it might be. Yeah, we might have to. If you played it at a note other than E, you might have to adjust a few settings, like readjust the comb filter and get the key tracking right. But I don't want to change it now because I got this kind of sweet spot that works for the E note, and I mean, like worst case scenario, you can bounce out the audio at E and then pitch it up and down afterwards. But having all the settings, you know, done so precisely, I was like taking a lot of time getting every little part right, and I was doing it to the note of E. So if we change the note now, it seems that it's going to like not have the same, you know, sweet spot everywhere. So that's something to bear in mind. So make sure you try and use it at E, or if not, you're going to have to go in and tweak things. But it's a free preset anyway, so you can't really shoot me too many times in the head for that, can you? I hope not. Anyway, that's the Waterfront bass. Hope you guys enjoyed this little video today. And yeah, don't do anything I wouldn't.